What do you make of the current MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson?
Lee Anderson is too arrogant.
Most terrorists are Muslims.
I call it Beirut.
I get the full bundle of paperwork of who have made these allegations, and they are my political opponents.
Wow. Okay, bombastic.
So I'm looking more dishevelled than usual today because I got up at the crack of dawn and 3 trains later I'm here in Kirkby and Ashfield. This is part of the Ashfield Constituency, which is a collection of former mining towns in Nottinghamshire. And it's got quite an interesting and complicated general election story. The MP for Ashfield is pretty well known nationally. His name is Lee Anderson. You might also know him as 30p Lee. And he was elected in 2019 as a Conservative MP, but he's now jumped ship to Reform.
It's not controversial to be concerned about illegal immigration.
However, he's not really the main character in Ashfield's story because Ashfield bucks a trend. The council here is controlled by independents. It has been since 2019, and at the last local elections they even bucked that trend of the Labour swing. Labour lost a councillor here. Labour on track currently to win this seat, but the Ashfield Independents are currently in second place. They're not free from baggage because the Ashfield Independents are led by a man who comes with his fair share of scandal. His name is Jason Zadrozny. He's currently the leader of Ashfield District Council and has been since 2019. Now, Zadrozny, he's up in court next year on multiple charges of tax evasion, fraud and possession of cocaine. But he's still in the running to be the next MP. But I guess the question is, beyond the bluster, beyond the sleaze, what do Ashfield residents really need from their political representatives? And what do they want? Because those can be two very different things. Ashfield, for example, has the highest rates of child poverty in the entire county, bar the city of Nottingham itself. And Lee Anderson might not be down for the count yet. Nigel Farage has entered the race and given a massive boost to various Reform candidates across the country. So at the moment I'm in Kirkby in Ashfield. We're going to travel to Sutton in Ashfield later. We're going all over Ashfield. And it's time to start finding out what people actually think.
Are you planning to vote?
I don't even bother to vote because they all shit in the same pot.
What do you make of the current MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson?
I don't know. Wait to see where he settles.
He's currently settled in Reform.
This week.
This week. You're not convinced?
Not a bit, no.
Well, I don't know a lot about him, to be quite honest. But he seems to change his allegiance quite often.
No, thank you. I haven't even asked. You didn't even know. I'm not Jehovah's. What do you make of your local MP?
Okay.
Lee Anderson?
Yes, approachable, yes. When you need things doing, yeah.
What's he helped out with?
He's helped out with my flat is sort of like adapted, sort of like for my disability sort of like needs, and he's like helped out sort of like with that, and sort of like made sure that I'm sort of like safe and well in the community, which is half of the sort of like battle. And
Just wanted to ask how long you've lived in Ashfield.
All my life.
How's it changed in that time?
It's changed. Oh yeah, everywhere has, hasn't it?
Better or worse?
It's worse. Everywhere's worse.
Been in Ashfield all my life, and I would vote for Reform, actually. But the thing is, I don't think there's going to be enough people in the country to vote for Reform for it to switch to Reform. And therefore, those who do go to vote for Reform will inadvertently let Labour in again.
What particularly about Labour's policies do you not want in 10 Downing Street?
Well, the rubber votes for a start.
You seem to be leaning more towards the independents.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, they're the only people that's done anything in this town, so there you go.
I think Jason Zadrozny actually has done a brilliant job getting his the swimming pool up and running. Since I was a kid, I mean, we've never had a swimming pool in Kirkby before.
Would you plan to vote for him?
I think I would, yeah.
What are the national issues that matter to you most?
Defence. We should definitely spend more on defence, and we should have an army that's a world beater like we used to be.
Are you voting in the general election then?
No.
Ooh. Do you usually vote or?
I normally do, but now at 80 I've
No, I decided not to.
Who did you used to vote for?
I always voted Labour.
And how come you're not voting Labour this time?
Because I'm not voting for anybody this time.
What issues do you think matter to the country at large?
Well, I tell you for now, Enoch Powell had right idea, many years ago.
I see. And why do you think that?
Because it is what I think. I mean, you're not English, are you?
Well, that's a question for my birth certificate, I think.
I'm going back years and years and years.
So what would you say about someone like me who's mixed? Would you say that Enoch Powell had the right idea about someone like me?
Well, not just you, it's everybody else that's coming into it.
What about national issues? Is there anything there you're particularly invested in?
No.
Health? Wealth?
Oh. Wealth? There isn't any. Not for us anyway, no.
Do you think Ashfield's been forgotten by Westminster?
Oh, yes, yeah. I think all the old mining villages have.
Do you think that, issues of small boats are things that directly affect your day-to-day life, or is it more stuff like the swimming pool?
Well, I think you can become overrun with small boats entering the country in certain parts of the country. Not so much round here, but it's steadily building up. We all know every Muslim isn't a terrorist, but unfortunately most terrorists are Muslims.
What would you prefer for people like me?
Stop where you are and not to come here. I'm not being personal, really.
No, this is really useful. So after this interview, I will be returning to Herefordshire. We're on our way to Sutton in Ashfield, which, as you might have guessed, is also part of the Ashfield constituency. I want to get some more young people. Not many young people wanted to talk to us. I don't know if that's because of demographics or whether they're just more camera shy. We're also going to be speaking to the leader of the Ashfield Independents, Jason Strosny, who's currently polling second in line to be the next MP for Ashfield. Jason Strosny has so much name recognition. This is what's been interesting about even being in Kirkby. People see him as one of the main two challengers. The Labour candidate's name wasn't even mentioned, even though they're technically polling first. Fascinating to know how Strosny plans to take that local impact or perception of local impact to a national level. We've just landed in Sutton, Ashfield, which is twice the size of Kirkby and Ashfield, and we're on the trail of Jason Strosny. And then we're also going to talk to the people of Sutton and see what they make of the place they live and what they want to see happen in the general election. Wonder if there'll be less Enoch Powell enthusiasts here. Already, Sutton feels a lot bigger than Kirkby did, which is probably because it is bigger. But on the high street, there's quite a lot of boarded up shops just behind me. There's one, which is a sight that's quite familiar nowadays in the wake of austerity. So we actually just lucked out because when we were in the shopping centre behind us, being told politely to leave, we bumped into Debbie Soliman, who happens to be the Conservative candidate for Ashfield. So, Debbie.
Hi, good afternoon.
So, what do you think are the issues that matter most to voters in Ashfield?
I think Ashfield wants, first and foremost, a person who's genuine, hardworking, and who is going to put them first. They want to be front and centre of what's going to be delivered for this country, and I'm here to do that.
What issues do you think matter to the country at large in this election?
I think the people want someone who they believe has got their best interest in heart. I believe that's a Conservative government, we have a plan in place. We are going to carry on doing everything we can to stop the boats, get the planes off the ground to Rwanda, because the influx of people is changing our society, and that's what's causing problems with people not being able to get a GP appointment or dentist or housing. So we have to deal with the very real issues on that. Labour have no plan for that. They're going to scrap Rwanda. They will have no deterrent in place.
For the uninitiated, can you tell us in a few sentences about this constituency?
So Ashfield's a great place. It's made up of 3 large towns, about 20 villages, a former mining area, and traditionally one of the Red Wall seats.
And what are the issues that matter to Ashfield in this election?
Jobs, the local economy is a big one, and of course access to public services. That's really a big issue for local.
And the current MP, Lee Anderson, who is now representing the Reform Party, what do you make of him?
Look, I think nobody can doubt that Lee has spoken up loudly for Ashfield. I just fundamentally disagree with a lot of what he said. It's much more about Lee Anderson than about doing something good for Ashfield. And I think people are fed up with that. They're fed up with politics. They want to see a real difference here, and that's bigger than somebody's ego.
An issue that we've heard raised by Lee Anderson a lot and has been echoed by the Conservative candidate today and several people on the ground is a general fear of immigration and the spectre of small boats. Why do you think this is an issue that's cut through, and do you think it's fair that it's cut through?
Well, I think that's because they want to make it about that. It's not an issue that affects Ashfield. The reason people in Ashfield can't get access to services is because the Tory government and the Tory County Council have slashed them for 15 years. And actually, Lee Anderson's one of the most guilty of that. He's been one of the most loyal Tory voting MPs in Parliament. His wife is still one of the most loyal Tory county councillors at the County Hall. That is the reason they are struggling. People are struggling to get access to services in Ashfield. And that suits Lee and the Tories to talk about something else, because it's just a distraction tactic. Look over there rather than look at our failures. You can point and blame at people for so long, but what's his solution? He's been here for 5 years and not found one.
What do you make of Jason?
I haven't met him. I've heard about him, and he has a reputation that precedes him.
Is that a good or bad reputation?
I have to be honest with you, and I'll always be honest with the voters. I've heard very negative things about him.
You've got a court case coming up next year. If you are elected as MP and that case goes ahead, what happens if you're found guilty?
Well, I'm very confident I won't be, because the police in Nottinghamshire have been weaponised a number of times by my political opponents. Instead of working hard, they make false allegations and claims. Every time they do that, it's dropped. Residents here are wise to it. It's like the Olympics. It just comes around every 4 years. They know that these are false. They've already dropped a huge number of the charges. I'm very confident. I wouldn't be daft enough to put my name on the ballot paper if I knew this wasn't going to be found totally in my favour again.
You say this is political opponents weaponising the police against you. Obviously the charges are of fraud, income tax evasion. I know you can't go into the details, but what political opponents do you think are weaponising this, if you're alleging that?
Well, I'm not allowed to go into the detail, but of course now it's become a court case. I get the full bundle of paperwork of who have made these allegations, and they are my political opponents.
But you can't say who they're aligned to?
I can't, because we're in that period of court action. You don't have to look very far to see who the common thread was last time allegations were made and this time again.
Wow. What makes you want to vote for Jason Zadrozny?
You know, because a lot of people are suffering. They can't afford this, they can't afford that. And we were bad off when we were kids, we survived. And I'm here to prove it, 84-year-old. And that's my 2 sisters, and that's a friend.
How many kids my mum had?
And my mum that lived down Midbank, Stantnell, something in not far. She had 13 children, and 11 survived. And she brought all them kids up on her own. Well, she got a husband, but here at back end. Britain at the moment, rubbish.
In what way?
Every way. All these people coming in from wherever, nobody wants them, costing us fortunes.
Do you think that immigration is a big problem in Ashfield?
Yeah, we never used to have anybody.
Not racist, but there's too many taking over us.
I don't think Ashfield has that much immigration from what we've been told, but do you feel like that's accurate?
Sometimes, yes. As I say, we're not racist, but sometimes you feel as if you're overcrowded with it, and you feel, let's say, for instance, you go to a car boot sale. There's definitely more people than us, more of them than us, that is for sure. And you feel a bit like you don't belong. You know what I mean? Like as if you're part of their life instead of them being part of our life.
When you say them, who are you referring to?
Well, foreigners.
When you say foreigners, do you mean, French people?
No, there's more
Greek, Asians, Greek, they all out from all over.
Like Polish and that sort of thing. And
so we're in the Ashfield Council-owned market. We've been talking to locals here, and I also just talked to a stallholder who didn't want to appear on camera, but is the only visibly Muslim woman in this area, and she said that 80% of people have been kind and welcoming to her, but 20% have been quite racist, and that she has received abuse because she wears a scarf. I am actually quite surprised at the levels of overt racism and Islamophobia that I've seen at play out of the mouths of people who have been perfectly pleasant otherwise. And maybe I'm just a little naive. Can I just ask you, you were referring to some shops down there. Yeah. What could you tell us what you're talking about?
Like I said before, I'm 88. I've lived here all my life. And I remember all the shops down there, you could buy a suit, you could buy shoes, you could buy lovely furniture. All that's gone. So all you've got down there is foreign barbers, takeaways. That's all you've got. I counted up once that there were 16 takeaways or restaurants, whatever you want to call it, along Outham Street. And I'm going to tell you again, I call it Beirut. I'm sorry to say that, but I want something back as I know it used to be.
What are the biggest issues do you think facing you, your family, the people you care about?
I'm not sure. There's too many. Littering, all the stuff like that. Yeah.
Are you planning to vote in the general election? No. How come?
I don't have a clue about anything like that.
What makes you not interested in stuff like that?
Just not bothered about it.
I live in Kirkby. I've been here 21 years.
And what are the biggest issues facing Kirkby and Ashfield in general?
All the shops closing like everywhere else. That's the biggest thing. Everything that you used to rely on, will close, whatever, all gone. And it's a sin because we don't all shop online.
What do you think's behind the shops closing?
Like a footfall trade, obviously. But most people shop online now, so they don't need to come out to look for things that they can they can find online.
And are you voting in the general election?
If I do, it'll be with great regret because not anybody's inspiring me at the moment,
Who do you think you might vote for if pushed?
Well, I've always voted Democrat, so I don't know. It just depends. It depends on our local candidate. And the new guy we've got, who used to be on the other party, doesn't inspire with a great... Lee Anderson, is it? Whatever his name. I'm crap with names.
Lee Anderson.
Doesn't inspire much in confidence, does he?
What do you think are the issues that matter to the country at large at this moment?
Getting rid of the exorbitant rate of inflation on food. That is the biggest issue for everybody. If you can afford to pay your bills, you can't afford to eat. I've been and bought a cream cake, but I've only bought one instead of two because it's economics, isn't it?
That was the first person who didn't blame the issues in Ashfield on small boats. Are you voting in the general election?
No.
How come?
Because it's all the higher power what decides it.
Do you know much about your local MP, Lee Anderson?
No.
What about national issues, you that plugged into things facing the country at large? Is there anything that you would fix if you were Prime Minister for the day?
I don't have a clue, really. It's just all the shops are closed. We need more shops because a lot of shops are being closed now and they're being built into flats, and it's just no heritage left in Sutton.
Are you planning to vote in the general election?
Yes, I am.
Who are you going to vote for?
Jason.
Why Jason?
He just seems the right candidate for it. The other one's, Lee Anderson, is too arrogant.
Yeah, what do you make of Lee Anderson? He's been your MP for a bit now.
He's all right, but it just it doesn't seem to be for what people want. They want Jason, so.
And what about the issues facing the country at large? What do you think those are?
Most of it's like too many people coming in, and not enough room for everybody else.
We've heard this a lot today. A lot of people have talked about immigration. Do you think there's a lot of immigration in Ashfield constituency?
There's quite a few, yes.
When you say there's quite a few, what do you mean?
So there's at least over 100, if not more.
What demographics are we talking about?
I'm not quite sure.
Young people don't want to talk to us. Hello, do you live in Ashfield? No. Hello, sir. No. What's wrong with me? This is bringing up a lot of daddy issues.
They stabbed Boris Johnson in the back and side and everywhere. And I voted for him last time. So I've lost faith in all of them.
What do you think are the biggest issues facing you and the local Ashfield constituency?
Well, cost of living and wars. There shouldn't be any wars. Get rid of those and I'll vote for you.
How long you lived in Ashfield constituency?
All my life.
And how's it changed?
Just like everywhere else, I suppose. Shops shutting. Miners, when they shut mines down, everybody, deprivation, that all came into area, which has a knock-on effect on all other industries. All shops are closing because everybody's buying online. It's a globalist economy, so everywhere's getting the same knock-on effect, you know.
What are the issues that directly affect you that you care about in Ashfield?
Well, I think we've got to preserve the environment. I think we've got to look after people, better working conditions, better benefits, things like that. You know, there's no money put into infrastructure. They'd rather spend it on 3.9 million to Ukraine to bomb and kill Russians when they should be spent on local area, roads, services, health services, a mess. Everything's a mess. What ain't, you know?
Are you planning to vote in the general election?
Yeah, I will vote, yeah.
Who are you going to vote for?
I think I'm going to vote Green.
And what do you make of your current MP, Lee Anderson?
He started off as a Labour councillor, then he worked for Labour MP, in fact, in, what's her name? Then he moved on to Tories, now he's moving over to Reform. He's just cashing in on populist, what he thinks are populist issues. He didn't vote for a ceasefire, so he's got no compassion for even women or kids or anyone. So, you know, everyone he's not voted for a ceasefire, he's not done anything to support Palestinians who have been murdered in a genocide. So if he can't even vote to stop a genocide, he's not getting my vote, no way.
A lot of local people have expressed to us that they think immigration is behind the degradation of their infrastructure. Do you think that's an accurate view for Ashfield?
I wouldn't say immigration's, I'd say that's a policy of government not spending on infrastructure. But I think what it is, immigration's been whipped up because they see unfettered immigration, boatloads of just single males coming in, so they feel threatened. But it's whipped up by, it's taking it away from blaming it on the immigrants. Let's blame it on the governments who've not invested in areas, you know.
Finished our day in the constituency of Ashfield. What I've learned is that although Ashfield has very specific local issues, the ones that have cut through are mostly panics about issues that really don't have much factual bearing in Ashfield itself, like the small boats, this idea of immigration. These are the things that were mentioned to us most of all. Young voters or young potential voters didn't want to talk to us, full stop. And the ones that did talk to us were alienated and disengaged from the political process that was going on. It's good to get out of London, but I am shocked by some of the views I found here, which might be quite naive. But these narratives that have taken root about immigration, about, you know, small boats, etc., all come from the same gripes, which is that infrastructure is broken, that high streets are declining, that the world people see around them and the living standards that they used to experience have slipped away, and they're looking for explanations. And Jason Zadrozny does present a quite convincing case, but I'm still not sure about the baggage he carries. It's, you know, he's up in court next year, and
his charges are pretty serious, and it's quite a high threshold for someone who holds public office to be taken to court with charges like these. Ditto Lee Anderson. Some people said he's actually a hands-on MP, someone who's helped them personally, but he has seemed, he's a firebrand who spent most of his political career drumming home these narratives about small boats and immigration, which don't have any bearing on his constituency beyond the narrative that they help instill in the people here. Distracting, I would say, further from the actual roots of the real problems. But whatever the feeling and emotion or the explanation people tell themselves, the reason behind it is the same. Ashfield is in decline, and I don't know if any of the politicians here really have the answers.